Hi everyone, I'm Sweet Melba. Thanks for joining me for Sunday on the Porch. So today I wanted to focus on a story that I think is important for all of us, and more importantly for me, the inspiration, or it just might be the calling for why I'm here on the porch. So I hope you'll join me. My brother was 51 when he passed away, and his passing was unexpected. He had had some health issues over the last couple of years prior to his passing, but we were not expecting him to be as sick as he became and then pass away. My brother's story, though, is an important lesson and really why my channel is all about a life well lived. My brother was special needs. He had developmental issues, and those followed him throughout his life. He was born 2 months premature, and while they never diagnosed exactly what his health situation was, again, it really followed him throughout his life. He was borderline hydrocephalic when he was born, and he spent the first few years of his life in the hospital doing studies at UCLA after we had moved to Southern California. He repeatedly had issues with pneumonia throughout his life, although he went for quite a long time without having an incident. But what I wanted to share more importantly was the way my brother lived his life. So, as a special needs, and if you have a special needs person in your life, this is all going to probably sound very familiar to you. But my brother was probably the most genuine, honest, loving, sincere person I have ever known in my life and probably ever will. And it was the way that he lived his life that I think really is the inspiration or the calling for why I feel that I need to share with you my focus on a life well lived. My brother had limitations because of his health challenges. He was very small. He was 5 foot, and he weighed for most of his entire life about 75 pounds. So there were limitations as a result, and cognitively as well. He was very smart, very intelligent, but there were limitations to that as well. But none of those limitations ever limited him in the way that he expressed himself in life. And I think that can be an inspiration for all of us. His medical challenges were such that the doctors told my parents that he probably would never live past the age of 5 and that he would never talk. And it would probably be best if my parents put him in an institution. And none of those things discouraged my parents. And my brother lived a very rich life from his perspective, even though he had limitations. There is something extra special about people with special needs. And my brother was a prime example of that. The genuineness of his nature and that of others. You know, when I was growing up in my elementary school, my brother and I are just a couple years apart, he was in the special education department. And actually eventually a couple of my friends, but I started out spending my lunchtime over at his classroom helping with the recess time in the area where the special needs classes were, because they had a special playground area and whatnot. And there was all different levels of special need in that class. A lot were in wheelchairs, some were not able to communicate. It was a wide spectrum of challenges. And I never felt uncomfortable in that environment. There was such an honesty and acceptable vulnerability of everybody there, from the teachers and the aides to me helping in the class, or some of my girlfriends at the time would eventually come over and help too. We all felt so comfortable there. And looking back on that, I wonder if that's just, there was just such honesty of people being themselves there. Nobody was trying to be something other than who they were. And despite their challenges and limitations and uh, extra care that they needed, they were just them. And we all loved all of them and we enjoyed helping them. And yes, at first it was a little uncomfortable, but that changed very quickly. And we felt very comfortable. And we all, really became supporters of them when we had, large events at school, and the special needs classes would be included in that. Some people felt very uncomfortable with that. Some people, unfortunately, were very mean in some of their comments and whatnot. And all of us that had actually spent one-on-one time with all of these students, we were very comfortable speaking up for them and letting other people know that what they were saying was not okay. And that they were really missing out because they weren't getting to experience what we were getting to experience in being with the special needs students. And I think that applies to all of us who have that interaction with special needs family members, friends, or community members. And if you've had special needs family members or friends, I'd be interested in hearing your story as well. There is just something so authentic and real about the time that you spend with special needs individuals. And if all of us, able bodied, as we'll say, um, could live life like they live life, I think we would all be so much happier. And being grateful for what we had, the opportunities we had, the people who were there to help us through our life, inspire us, and give us opportunities to try new things, and just really embrace life from that perspective. So, again, I hope you'll share some of your stories today in the comments. When my brother passed away at age 51, I think, we all naturally kind of look back on that person's life, and did they live a good life? Did they enjoy their life? What could we learn from that? And my husband and I had conversations about this. And, certainly my brother's life was limited in some ways because of his developmental as well as some physical challenges. But again, he led such a rich life that in retrospect, he really did embrace the idea of a life well lived. He, the things that he loved trains since he was little, all through his life. And we are now, my parents and I, looking at all of his belongings and, what we're keeping, what we feel is important to share with others, and move those along to other people so that they can enjoy those. And the trains are a big one. He also loved motorcycles, Harley Davidsons specifically. But because of his limitations, he could not drive. And he could not own his own Harley Davidson. Now, my dad had one and they would go on rides and stuff, but my brother was very ingenious when it came to things that he loved. And that was one of the things I think that was so important, was that he fully embraced and always found a way to do the things that he loved doing or spending time with, whether that was seeing trains or traveling on trains. Because I took him, and my husband took him on a few train trips. And he always found a way to do the things he loved to do. So, trains, motorcycles. Again, he couldn't have his own motorcycle, but he wanted his own. So what he did was he designed, with the help of my dad and a lot of other people in the community, designed his own motorcycle bicycle. He actually had two of them, and they were astonishing to everybody who saw them. They were bicycles, it was whether it was a Schwinn bike or a Huffy bike, but he made it up to look like a motorcycle, and it was his version of that. So he always found a way to do the things he enjoyed doing, despite his limitations. He loved movies, and he had hundreds of them, whether those were VHS or DVD. And we're now trying to figure out what do we do with these things. But he loved them, and he'd watch the same movie over and over because he loved that. He loved eating. Eating was a highlight of his life from the day he was born, probably, throughout his life. And he always loved going to his favorite restaurants and seeing the waiters and the waitresses that he loved to see at those places. But it was the food. When he was coming down to visit with my husband and I, he would know ahead of time. He'd have a list of all the restaurants, fast food or whatnot, that he wanted to go to. So food was always something incredibly important to him. My brother always wanted to help others in any way that he could. And a lot of that involved my parents helping out because of his limitations. But, at the holidays, he always wanted to go and deliver a pie or a cake or cookies to all the friends that he had in the community, whether that was at the shop where my dad, had his trade and business, the people that would come and go, the bankers, the people at the grocery store, the people out at the swap meets, and just he always wanted to bring things to other people to acknowledge them in terms of how much he cared for them and thought of them. And nobody he ever met wasn't a friend. And he was so trusting and really looked to see what he was going to learn, and how these individuals that came into his life were going to be impactful for him. And he never forgot that. He always remembered people, people he'd met or have been a part of his life for 20 years, 20 years ago. He didn't forget those people. And he wasn't afraid to reach out and say hello to those people, whether it was through social media or trying to find a phone number to call them. It was amazing how many friends he had that were friends from when we were in high school or junior high, people he had met briefly, that again had an impact on his life that he never forgot. And he always found a way to try and reach back out to them, to acknowledge them and say hello and ask how they were doing. And he just always made an effort to do that and to be appreciative and uh, grateful for those experiences and those people in his life. And my brother loved everybody unconditionally. It didn't matter, if he'd met you a couple times, that love that he had for people, and for animals. We always had dogs growing up, and his animals meant the world to him. And our dogs that my husband and I had, they meant the world to him. Any pet, anything like that of anybody's, he just loved them. So whether it was people, animals, or the things that he loved doing, it was just an unconditional appreciation and love for those people, animals, and things. And it was so genuine. And there was no holding back in that. And even when he was in the hospital on a ventilator and could barely speak, and it ultimately could not speak. He was writing notes. And I recall there was a nurse who he thought was very pretty because he told her, He told her trying to talk through a ventilator, and he told her writing on a piece of paper that he thought she was pretty. He never stopped expressing that love for other people and appreciation for other people. And I think that's a lesson all of us can learn. Because of my brother's limitations, there were certain things he couldn't do, as I said, but there were things that he wanted to do that we had to make an extra effort to be able to do that. And as I mentioned, he loved trains. And so him and I went on a couple train trips together, just him and I, which was great. He loved Amtrak, and we have hundreds of videos and DVDs, as I mentioned, to prove his love for that. But we found ways to do that. He wanted to go on a cruise, and my parents were really hesitant to do that just because we really had to keep an eye on him. And because, there were some concerns there in terms of his safety, or overdoing certain things and whatnot. But I found a way for him and I to go on a couple cruises together, and he absolutely loved it. And as I mentioned, he never met somebody who wasn't a friend. It was amazing how many people on that cruise ship he was friends with within a couple days of being on the ship. We would be walking around and, oh, hey, hey, it was just never ending. It was an experience. And he loved that, doing that. And it was such a freedom component for him to be able to, go to, one of the bars and have a drink with somebody. And he was limited in being able to drink, but he loved what little he could drink. But it was just an experience, and it was all those different things. And we always strive to find a way to allow him to enjoy the things that he wanted to enjoy or experience. We always tried to do that. And we were rewarded in that experience as well. To see that extra effort to find a way to get to do something for him, and how much he enjoyed that. It meant so much to us and to other people. Little things that they did to help him so that he could participate in particular activities and stuff. I think it was also very rewarding to them. Those are things that, in looking back at my brother's life, that I think, he had limitations. There were things he couldn't go and do, but he lived a life well lived. And he's an example, I think, for me directly, our family, the people that were part of his life. So when my brother passed away, obviously, it was an emotional time for all of us in the family. It was unexpected. And it was an experience for me that I really have been reflecting on over the almost 2 years now. I was not overly emotional about his passing. There was something, and I can't explain that really, but it's something I've thought about over the time that's elapsed now. Why that was, why I wasn't more emotionally upset or really struggling with it, and I never really have. And it's kind of come to me in bits and pieces, and I think at this point, I think I know why that is, that there was something bigger that was coming from his passing that I hadn't yet figured out. And over the last few months, I think I have been more aware of what that is. One of the things that I've thought about was, I've not really had a moment or instances where I have felt my brother's presence since his passing. And I have felt that with other family members who have passed away, a cousin in particular. But I haven't felt that with my brother. I just kept thinking that reason's going to make itself clear at some point. And again, over the last few months, I think that has really come to my awareness as I have looked at starting this channel. which is about 2.5 months old, that I felt the need to be sitting here sharing my story with others and encouraging them to reflect on their lives. And I really feel at this point that that's my brother inspiring me or calling me to focus on this aspect of life. A calling or an inspiration that I have felt to be where I am at today, sitting on the porch, talking to you and those that are watching, or that will come to watch the channel. I hope in that the importance of living a life well lived, whatever that means for you, given your interests, your challenges, your limitations, your dreams, whatever those may be. But I think why I'm here is to share the importance of all of us striving for a life well lived. How I feel I should be giving back to a larger community in sharing this message and direction in our lives. So I feel like I am being asked or called to or inspired to contribute to a larger community and to share my stories, my challenges, the things I've experienced in my life, the things I am appreciative for, that I'm grateful for, in the hopes that others will recognize those aspects in their own life. And I think it's important for all of us to share our stories, our life lessons with others to help them in their lives and to give them some insight or encouragement or inspiration to pursue the things they want to do. And that you will overcome challenges. And all of that will contribute to not only your life, but all the lives of the people that you interact with. Just like my brother impacted my life and my parents and all the people that he interacted with, that was all shared and reflected by his love for all of us and his love of life. And by us sharing with others, we are doing the same. So I look forward to doing that here on my channel. And I look forward to others finding the channel and hopefully being inspired by some of these stories and being more appreciative of the opportunities and the people that have been in their life. So I hope that my channel and my stories will be of value to others in that they inspire, they encourage you to look at your life in the past and going forward, that my challenges and successes and achievements may provide you with encouragement on the activities that you're wanting to do in your life, whether that's, experiences, relationships, opportunities that come your way. That's where I want to be of value to others and impact other people's lives. I think that is something that I've always done in my life. Probably not as clearly focused as I feel it is right now, but through my business, I've always wanted to share my experiences with others so that things are easier for somebody else or that a lesson I've learned is beneficial to somebody else. And some of the videos that I'll be sharing will be talking about that. And some of my ones have already done that and how I have tried to focus on that. But I really see that as a value to a larger community, whoever happens to see this or starts thinking about some of these things in their own life. So, as I said in the beginning, my brother lived his life very genuinely, honestly, unconditionally in terms of his interaction with other people, doing the things that he loved doing. And I think that's the lesson that I learned most from my brother, in that even though there are sometimes limitations, there is such opportunity and enrichment out there for us, and the opportunities we've already had to appreciate those, remember those people, and be thankful and remembering those. So I encourage you to do the same. So I hope you'll join me here on the Sweet Melba channel as we go forward, sharing my stories, and I invite you to contribute your stories in the comments as well. I think the more that we share, the more it helps us individually as well as helping others. So please, I hope that you will share your information and your stories as well. Have you known people like I'm describing my brother, people in your family or friends, other family members who just embrace life like that? And I don't know that he really knew that's what he was doing. He was just doing what was naturally him. So I'd be interested in hearing your stories in the comments of people that you've known that have been like that have been an inspiration for you, or, you know, allowed you to see a different perspective that maybe you didn't, because of their way of simply living their life. So I hope you'll share in the comments. I feel that this is where I need to be. This is the message and the stories I should be sharing. And I hope others will find it. Who knows when that may be? But I'm here sharing for a larger purpose. And I hope that there are others out there that can benefit and find value in the content that I'm sharing here on my channel. So I appreciate you watching. I hope you'll subscribe and like the video today. And I will look forward to seeing you again on the porch next Sunday for Sunday on the Porch. I'm Sweet Melba. Thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed the video today, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.